Hi there! How are you all doing? Today, we're kicking off a new MUNDO-XP series on FBC Firebreak, the latest game from Remedy Entertainment, the studio known for titles like Alan Wake, Quantum Break, and Control. But this time, the approach is different. A cooperative, tactical first-person experience set in the same universe as Control, but offering a whole new perspective.
Firebreak officially launched on June 17, 2025, with versions available for PC via Steam and Epic Game Store, PlayStation 5, and Xbox Series X, S. The game also arrived day one on Game Pass and PlayStation Plus, greatly increasing its reach and making access easier for players from day one.
The game was developed by Remedy Entertainment in partnership with Tencent's Lightspeed Studios division, which handled technical work and optimization. However, the creative direction and narrative identity remain 100% Remedy, meaning twisted worlds, institutional mystery, and paranormal phenomena.
The setting remains the same, the so-called Oldest House, the headquarters of the Federal Bureau of Control, a fictional agency created by Remedy to investigate and contain supernatural events. In Control, we follow Jesse Faden's story. In Firebreak, the focus shifts completely. Now you're part of a containment team deployed to interdimensional emergency zones.
Players take on the role of FBC agents, conducting dangerous operations where the physical world is collapsing under the influence of unknown forces. But this time, the action isn't cinematic or solo. Firebreak leans into tactical cooperation for up to 3 players in short, high-intensity sessions.
And the game's name isn't random. Firebreak refers to containment zones used to stop the spread of wildfires. In the game's context, it represents missions designed to halt the expansion of interdimensional disturbances. According to Remedy, the title reflects both the theme and the player role, preventing chaos from spreading.
Even though FBC Firebreak is part of the Control universe, it's not a direct sequel. It expands the mythology but offers a distinct experience with a different gameplay style, pace, and narrative structure. That has sparked both curiosity and caution among fans, which we'll explore in later episodes.
Another key point, unlike most Remedy games, this one doesn't follow a traditional narrative format. The story here is fragmented, environmental, and supplementary, something that frustrated longtime fans, but appealed to players who prefer direct and challenging experiences.
The game retains Unreal Engine 5 as its tech base, allowing for realistic visuals, dynamic weather effects, and destructible environments with high detail. The visual identity stays true to the Control universe with warped offices, impossible hallways, and geometric anomalies.
Still, in this episode, we'll break down the game modes, mission structure, and early details on how player cooperation works. But one thing is already clear. Firebreak marks a new phase for Remedy, as the studio steps outside its narrative comfort zone.
In the next segment, we'll dive into the gameplay mechanics, available kits, combat challenges, and first reactions from players since launch. If you want to understand how the game works in practice and why it's already dividing opinions, stay with us.
See you in the next segment.
Hi there, how's everything going? In the first episode, we explored how FBC Firebreak marks Remedy's full dive into the world of cooperative shooters. Now, let's investigate how the gameplay actually works, what players do on the field, and how the combat system is structured.
Firebreak is a tactical co-op game for 3 players, with missions set in unstable reality zones. The action unfolds in first person, and the focus is on team coordination, smart use of abilities, and environmental manipulation. According to the official website, the key phrase is tactical missions in a collapsing reality.
Players take on the role of FBC operators, each equipped with a personalized kit. These kits function as distinct classes with specific roles. In the launch version, the game features 4 main kits: Guardian, Defense and Area Control, equipped with shields, turrets, and damage absorption abilities; Striker, the offensive kit, high mobility and damage output, focused on flanking and quickly eliminating threats; Engineer, specialized in altering the environment, opening new paths, building cover, and deploying utility drones; and field medic, responsible for healing, reviving, and keeping the team operational amid chaos.
Each mission can be replayed with different kit combinations, and the game encourages experimentation. According to Remedy, this system of complementary roles was inspired by MMOs and classic tactical games, but executed in real time and with a faster pace.
Missions are short, between 15 and 25 minutes, but require constant attention. Players must react to unpredictable events like structural collapses, dimensional distortions, and anomalies that reshape map geometry. Plus, there are randomized side objectives in each session.
Combat is direct, heavy, and based on positioning and tactical awareness. It's not a fast-paced shooter like Call of Duty, but it's also not fully turn-based like XCOM. Firebreak carves out its own space between co-op FPS and coordinated team combat.
One standout feature is the level of environmental destruction. Players can break walls, cause collapses, or seal off areas to contain threats. This isn't just for aesthetics, it's core gameplay. Some missions even require sealing unstable zones to prevent further collapse.
Another key point, there's no PvP. The entire structure is designed for PvE, players against AI, in scenarios where the environment is just as dangerous as the enemies. In fact, the AI is described as dynamic, with enemies adapting to team performance.
And in case you're wondering about progression, yes, the game includes a character advancement system, but there's no random loot. Everything is handled through skill upgrades and kit enhancements, with a stronger focus on planning than luck.
Weapons are also tied to each kit, with customization options that change fire rate, range, and damage type. According to Remedy's launch patch notes, weapons were already rebalanced based on performance during the closed beta.
The interface is clean and non-intrusive. According to early reviews, Firebreak avoids HUD clutter and relies on integrated visual feedback like map cracks, environmental warnings, and distortion on the screen's edges. So far, the gameplay structure seems solid. But here's the big question. How is the community reacting? Are servers stable? Is matchmaking working? What are the most common complaints?
Those answers are in the next script. We're diving into the real-world reactions to the launch, including praise, technical issues, controversies, and the impact during the first 48 hours.
Stay with us.
See you in the next segment. Hi there. How's everything going? After covering the game's core concept and cooperative mechanics, it's time to examine what might be the most sensitive topic: the real-world reaction to the launch, both in community forums and in technical reviews.
Let's get straight to the point. The game was released on June 17, 2025, exclusively for PC via Steam, and within the first 48 hours, sharply divided opinions began to surface.
On the positive side, many players praised the technical polish, especially the visuals. The environments were described as immersive, the interface was commended for its clarity, and the combat system, as we saw before, offers strong tactical depth.
But on the other hand, one of the main criticisms was the lack of content. The game launched with only 6 available missions, which many considered too few for a co-op-focused title. There are also no alternative game modes or meaningful progression challenges, reducing the experience's initial longevity.
Another source of friction was Remedy's decision to launch the game as a live service, meaning regular updates are planned, but there wasn't enough starting content to justify that model. This choice sparked resistance, especially among longtime fans of the studio.
On Steam forums, some players said that although the core gameplay is solid, Firebreak feels more like a structured prototype than a finished product. The absence of a developed story, lack of campaign mode, and limited matchmaking features weighed heavily on early reviews.
One of the week's most upvoted comments summed it up like this: "The game's foundation is excellent, but right now, Firebreak feels like a luxury car with no fuel. You get in, admire the dashboard, but you're not going anywhere."
Another point of criticism, navigation bugs and performance issues on mid-range PCs. While the game takes full advantage of Unreal Engine 5, it demands a lot from GPUs and lacks proper optimization for mainstream hardware, resulting in stuttering and frame drops in some sessions.
There were also discussions around the server system. Since the game doesn't offer solo play with bots, players who tried to queue without a team had trouble, especially during off-peak hours.
As a result, Firebreak received a mixed rating on Steam with around 55% positive reviews in the first 72 hours. The general consensus? The potential is high, but the execution is still limited.
To be fair, Remedy has already promised updates in the weeks following launch, including new missions, additional kits, and improvements to matchmaking. But the question remains, will the community wait long enough?
And that's exactly what we'll cover in the next episode. What does this project mean for Remedy's trajectory? What's the strategic context behind Firebreak? And what has the studio said about the game's future?
Stay with us.
See you in the next segment. After 3 episodes diving into the mechanics, launch, and community reactions to FBC Firebreak, it's time to understand the broader context behind the game's development and what's truly at stake for Remedy.
Firebreak is a project born at a strategic turning point. Remedy, known for titles like Control, Alan Wake, and Max Payne, now faces an industry where diversification of business models is essential, especially as AAA narrative games become increasingly expensive to produce.
That's where Lightspeed LA enters the picture. Tencent's US-based studio, collaborating with Remedy on the technical development of Firebreak. Officially, the project is described as a co-op action title with an isometric perspective, focused on emergent gameplay and ongoing updates.
And the key phrase here is ongoing updates. Firebreak is Remedy's first real experiment with a live service model. This means the game will grow over time, with new missions, operators, seasonal events, and even episodic narrative arcs planned post-launch.
But that decision comes with risks. Remedy's core audience is used to deep storytelling and immersive single-player experiences. Shifting toward a mission-based co-op model could alienate longtime fans who expect a different kind of game.
According to Remedy's own executives, the strategy is to balance risk while expanding the player base, testing new formats without abandoning their signature productions, like Control 2 and the Max Payne 1 and 2 remakes, which remain in parallel development.
Another key detail, Firebreak is considered a satellite project. That means it's not meant to replace Remedy's flagship titles, but rather serve as a testing ground for new mechanics, cooperative AI, and back-end technologies, like matchmaking, telemetry, and dedicated servers.
In other words, Firebreak is not just a game, it's a sandbox for Remedy's future systems. And that ambition shows in the way the game approaches cooperation. There's no hero focus, no cinematic storytelling, just pure systemic gameplay driven by emergent dynamics.
That's why international press reactions have been cautious. Outlets like PC Gamer and IGN praised the game's technical foundation, but emphasized it urgently needs content depth to fully support its service-based model.
Meanwhile, on Steam, the message is clear. Firebreak is still in early access with a public roadmap promised soon. The future of the project will depend on 2 things: the speed of updates and the patience of the community.
And this is where opinions diverge. Some believe Remedy is entering the right space at the right time. Others view this shift as a distraction, one that could compromise the studio's more creative and narrative-driven work.
What's certain is that Firebreak opens a new chapter for the company. And if it succeeds, it could be the first step towards a more versatile Remedy, capable of delivering both powerful stories and large-scale cooperative challenges.
It's a bold move, and only time will tell whether Firebreak will be remembered as a smart strategic pivot or as an unnecessary detour from a studio known for crafting unforgettable universes.
If you enjoyed this special series, don't forget to like, comment, and share it with your fellow gamers. And of course, stay tuned to MUNDO-XP for more investigations into games, technology, and digital culture.
We'll see you in the next investigation.
Until then.